Hey, how you guys doing? Um, I know you're not used to seeing my face like this, but I figured I want to try something new for the channel. I figured I wanted to be more engaging, more conversational. So I figured this would be kind of like the best way to do it. So yeah, I hope you enjoy this new type of content. And honestly, this is just kind of a way for me to get my thoughts out easier. So yeah, and I especially wanted to come over here and talk about a certain topic that I've wanted to talk about for a very, very long time, but I didn't know quite the best way to do it. So I thought, why not? Just show myself on camera and just talk about it, right? So uh, recently the news came out that Hulk is going to be appearing in the new Spider-Man movie, in Spider-Man Brand New Day. Now, the inner child in me thinks, "Oh wow, this is so freaking awesome!" Right? Seeing like my two childhood favorite superheroes finally in a team, like finally in a movie together, right? But this kind of got me thinking about the way that Marvel Studios has been treating the character ever since 2008. Now, I for one thought the Incredible Hulk movie was awesome. I thought it was fantastic. One might say incredible. Uh, I thought Edward Norton did a very good job, and it really is a shame that he didn't reprise the role in future movies. Then Mark Ruffalo's Hulk came. I really liked him in Avengers 1, and I did really like him in Avengers 2. I even liked him in Thor Ragnarok to an extent. But then it all fell apart with Avengers Infinity War when Thanos whooped his butt, all right? And then in Avengers Endgame, they culminated his arc by merging the two personalities together, Bruce Banner and Hulk. And they did that off screen, which I thought was super lame. I want to be honest with you. And since then, Marvel Studios didn't really know what to do with the character. Because then you had him popping up in She-Hulk, which, by the way, was a complete joke. Terrible show, terrible main character, not funny whatsoever. And Hulk was even more of an embarrassment in that show. And then you had Red Hulk and Leader popping up in Captain America Brave New World, which was like, I'm just over here thinking, what are you doing, Marvel? What are you doing with this character? And so then I thought even further back, and I was like, well, there was really only one movie to me that really got to the heart and soul of the character more than any other cinematic depiction of the character. And it's the one that I'm going to be talking about today. That is Ang Lee's 2003 film adaptation of Hulk. Now, a lot of people gave this movie flack for being too much talking, not enough smashing. It's so boring. The comic book transitions are weird. They say all this crap, right? They say all this crap, but in actuality, I'm just over here thinking, man, this is like the most authentic, realist depiction of the character that we have seen on screen yet. I once fell into the YouTube crowd, right? I once followed, like, as I was younger, I fell into the trap of YouTube film critics saying, "Oh, it's one of the worst superhero movies of all time. It's one of the worst comic book movies of all time." But then eventually, as I grew older and I grew wiser, I went back to my childhood statements and I was like, actually, no, this movie's actually still pretty good. So this video is really ultimately just my love letter to this movie. And also it's a love letter to why I fell in love with the character in the first place. So this is how I learned to stop worrying and love Hulk. So the first thing I want to say about this movie is I really like the acting. I think Eric Bana is a criminally underrated Bruce Banner. I think he is very, very good in his performance. I think he's very, a lot of people complain that, like, oh, he's so monotone. He's like one note and everything. But here's the thing: this Bruce Banner is not like the one you see in the MCU. This one's more like emotionally reserved. right? He's a lot more distant from people. And and I really liked the way he acted. I really liked the way he kind of just moved out about it. You always felt like there was something bottling up inside of him, right? You always felt like there was something there ready to just like go away, like just explode in a moment's notice, right? And so I really, really think that this guy acts the part very well. And I really believed his emotional turmoil about struggling with the beast within, and I'll talk more about the Hulk as I go on. I really like Jennifer Connelly as Betty Ross. I think she's kind, she's nurturing, she's beautiful. She's like, she is the perfect beauty to Bruce Banner's beast, right? And I also really love how this movie establishes that, they used to be a couple. But then I guess because of Bruce's sort of like emotional distance, they broke up, right? But since then, they've remained good friends. And I love how even after the accident, even after everything that's happened, she still helps him. She still wants to ensure that he is okay, right? And I especially love how this is further illustrated in her sort of tumultuous relationship with her dad, right? And so, I thought Betty is a great character. I think an excellently written female character, because nowadays Marvel kind of forgets to do that very often, right? We get characters like Carol Danvers, and we get characters like Captain Marvel and She-Hulk and Valkyrie and all these other characters, when it's like Betty Ross is one of those people that she's naturally written well, right? She's a naturally good character, and she's a naturally strong character, right? So I feel like we're missing that in today's Marvel movies. Not to say we still don't get it, but it's just that they're very, very few out there, right? Now, the next one I want to get to is Sam Elliott, who, listen, I love William Hurt in the MCU movies, R.I.P., rest in peace, my boy. And I did not mind Harrison Ford in Captain America: Brave New World. However, I think William Hurt is Sam Elliott. I think he is the best General Ross we have ever gotten on film. He is like stern. He's steadfast. He's very stubborn, and he's very commanding in his presence, right? But I also like that the movie shows a more human side to him, right? It shows a more human side to him, because all in all, he wants to grow a relationship with his daughter. He wants to get back, to growing back his father-daughter relationship with Betty. But it's just that his career and his own stubbornness get the best of him, right? Especially when it comes to his obsession with the Banners. When Bruce, transforms like for the first time, and then he gets involved. And so, and I love the scene where Ross interrogates Bruce about he must have seen something, right? You must have seen something in your past. But Bruce, he doesn't remember anything, right? And what I like is how eventually you eventually see that all in all, Ross, he grows to care about Bruce. He's always cared about Bruce, even as he was a kid, right? Especially in the circumstances that he was in. And so, all of this to say, I love Sam Elliott. I think he's amazing. I think he's a fantastic General Ross. And I also thought he was really good in the Ghost Rider movie, which I may make a separate video on that. But regardless, Now, I want to talk about Josh Lucas as Glenn Talbot. This man is the pettiest dude I have ever seen out of any movie featuring the Hulk. This man is what I love about him is that you kind of love to hate him, right? You love to like he's so hateable, but because the acting is so good, you love watching him, right? And I feel like his two best scenes are with Bruce Banner. And the first scene, and funny enough, both of those scenes are actually about him like trying to turn him angry, right? Or it's all about him trying to turn him angry. And so, you know, and the way he goes about it, right? He goes like he's punching him or he's electrocuting him. He's doing all these sorts of things, right? But like, like the first scene that he does, right? The first scene where the Bruce transforms into the Hulk in front of him is so funny because now he sees what this guy's capable of, right? He sees like, oh, he's just a scrawny, nerdy guy. What's he gonna do, right? And so then he transforms and he's like so terrified of him. He's like, you know, like he looks like he's about to see death for the first time, you know, and that's what I really liked about him. I will say this: he does have a very funny death in the movie. He does for all the film's flaws, I do agree that is one of them. He does go out in kind of like the worst way possible. You know, like he tries to shoot a missile at the Hulk, but then the missile just kind of bounces back, and he explodes, and it's kind of like, you know, like it's so weird and it's so funny, but I feel like it's at the same time like an appropriate death for him. I don't know. I guess I'll talk more about the editing like later on, right? Now, I think Nick Nolte is very good in this movie as Bruce's dad. And funny enough, I think he's the most committed actor in the film because at times he can be very quiet, very reserved, right? But yet at the same time, he's very stern. He knows what he's talking about, right? And he has this mysterious nature about him. And what I really like is how when we see him when he's older, is we don't know what he's on about. We don't know if he's telling the truth or not, because he goes up to Bruce and he's like, I'm your father, son, right? And Bruce is like, what are you talking about? My dad died when I was young. And he was like, no, they took you away from me. They lied to you, right? And you think he's just like this crazy old guy, right? That's trying to get to Bruce. And then later, you come to find out, no, he is telling the truth, right? But yet, I like that throughout the movie, you start to kind of see more of like his sinister nature, right? Like his more sinister side to him, especially when he literally injects his own dogs with gamma radiation and they turn into like these big Hulk dogs. Like, I'm just like, dude, that's just horrifying, right? And he sends them after Betty, right? He sends them after Betty. And so that is the first sign to you where it's like, oh gosh, this guy is like super serious, right? This guy is like evil. And then eventually you come to find out more of the backstory, and I'll talk more about that in a little bit. And what I love is how in one of the last scenes of the movie, when Bruce is talking with his dad, Nick Nolte literally chews up the scenery. He literally chews up the scenery. And what I love is how, like, in that same scene, he goes from very quiet, you know, very, like, you know, yeah, like, just very, very quiet, right? But then eventually he starts going on a whole rant about the U.S. government and about how he's, like, you know, like, they could become gods among men, right? He starts ranting about this whole sort of thing. And I'm just like, oh my god, dude, I can totally see why Ang Lee cast this guy. I mean, it's no coincidence that he cast him right after he was like released. I believe he was like released from he was released from jail, like after like before they shot the movie, and they wanted him to kind of like keep that hair, that crazy hairstyle. So it definitely adds to his performance, right? I will say I did like that he's kind of a combination between, like, you know, obviously he's Bruce's dad, but also he also has powers from like the Absorbing Man from the comics, and also of Zex, right? Who's kind of like, he's kind of, think of like Electro, but he's a lot more electricity filled. So I like that they kind of combine elements of that into like one character, and it does make for a very interesting final battle. I will say that. Now I want to get to the Hulk himself. I think this is the best depiction of the character we have seen yet. Because for one thing, I think he looks great. I don't understand why people are saying he looks too green. What are you expecting? What are you expecting? Like he's the Hulk. He's supposed to be green, unless he's gray, in which case, like, whatever, right? And I love the way he moves. I love the way that he goes around tearing things apart. I love the way that he's just right. And I love especially how he's like a big baby in this, right? And it's even talked about in one scene where it's post-transformation. Bruce is having lunch with Betty, and when Betty asks, "Where were you last night?" and Bruce was like, "I had the most vivid dream. It was like being born, light hitting my face, screaming." Like he literally describes it as like it was like being born, right? And it's true because the Hulk was literally born that night. And what I love is how I love his action scenes. I think, and I also think that this Hulk has some real menace to him, right? Especially that iconic shot where he's like staring directly at Talbot. He's staring directly at the camera. You can tell that the CG artists worked so hard on this guy. I believe they've even gone on record by stating that the Hulk was the most advanced visual effect they had ever done, which, by the way, the special effects were done by Industrial Light and Magic, the same visual effects company that worked on the Star Wars movies. So that's how you know. That's how you know some real talented people worked on this, okay? And I also really liked how it was Ang Lee himself that did the motion capture for the Hulk, right? Because only he showed like how he wanted to move and how he wanted to act, right? And so I love that. I love the commitment that he gave to this character, right? And so I really, really appreciated it. And I also love how the film presents Hulk as the Hulk has always been a metaphor for Bruce's childhood abuse, even in the comic books, right? And I love that this film is no different. And especially since they use it as, they always use this door as a metaphor, right? Because if you go through flashbacks, you go through flashbacks of Bruce's childhood, and you see that after his father is going to activate like a gamma bomb to destroy like a military facility, he goes home and he takes his wife. He's like, "I gotta talk to you, Edith." And then they go and they start talking behind this door, right? And Bruce, he doesn't know. The poor guy, he doesn't know what's going on behind that door. And then suddenly he starts to hear shouting. He starts to hear yelling behind this door, right? And he's scared. He's confused. He doesn't know what's happening, right? And then in the beginning of the movie, you don't know what's going on behind that door. Because then when the door opens, like he snaps out of his dream, right? And his foster mom says, "You had another nightmare?" To which then he goes, "I don't know. I don't remember." So you see, so whatever Bruce had seen that day, he repressed it. He repressed it in his mind, right? He repressed all that trauma. And it isn't until later, as we go through the movie, that we start to see that source of trauma. We start to see that kind of, the reveal of what happened, right? Now, the next time that they use the door as a metaphor is when Bruce has a nightmare in the hospital, and he starts seeing kind of like different, like he starts seeing like deserts and fogs and reptilians and whatever shades of green and purple, which, by the way, nice touch. Until eventually he sees that door. He sees that same door. But then when the door opens, guess who comes out of it? The Hulk. You see the Hulk behind the door. So that right there, the film is telling you that the Hulk is literally a representation of his childhood trauma, and that the Hulk came as he came from that trauma. He was born as a result of that trauma that he had suffered. But Bruce doesn't know why. He doesn't know why the Hulk is there. He just knows that he's there, right? And so he thinks that the Hulk was there because of the gamma explosion, right? It just created another side of him. But we learn eventually that no, the Hulk was always there. He was always there even as a child, right? And then you get to later in the film when Bruce and Betty visit his childhood home, and he sees that door again. He sees the source of his trauma, and he's afraid. He's shaking. It's amazing how this man who has like so much power, he has so much power that's in him, right? He can literally transform into a giant monster filled with rage, for goodness sakes. Yet here he is, afraid of a simple door because he's afraid of what it represents, right? He's afraid of what is behind there. And Betty, I love Betty in this film because she helps him confront his fears. And he's afraid of opening, and so she's over here like, what is it that you're afraid of seeing? And they finally open the door and there's nothing there, right? He even says it himself. He's like, see, there's nothing. There's nothing there. But then later in the film, when Bruce is under this military base underground and these people are performing like experiments on him and he's like sleeping or whatever, they dig into his memory and we finally learn what was behind that door. We came to find out, and this is all coinciding with Betty visiting Bruce's dad, and he finally tells the whole story of what happened that day. And we come to find out that, in the beginning of the movie, we see that Bruce's dad was like performing experiments on Bruce when he even since he was a baby. And I like that they even start to foreshadow the Hulk when you see him performing experiments on like lab animals and whatever. He performs like something on a starfish, and it turns out they have like hardened skin as a result of the experiments, which technically is a foreshadowing of how the Hulk eventually, he adapts to that, right? And he has like hard skin himself. And so all this to say, right, that as Bruce's dad was performing experiments on him, he came to see that he was creating a monster, right? So then, in order to get rid of it, he was going to kill Bruce. So then after he rushes out of that door, he gets the door open. You see him screaming. You see him screaming at Bruce, and he grabs a kitchen knife. He's going to kill the poor boy. But then the mom gets in the way, and the mom dies. She gives her life for her son. And then David, he realizes what he did, and he's like horrified. He's like taken aback, right? And so the mom, she's like, don't do it. And she's like clutching her heart, like it seems like, right? And then Bruce is just watching. He's just watching. He's trying to process what's going on, right? And so then, obviously later, the military comes in and they arrest David, and guess who's there to come for Bruce? The general, Betty's dad, right? And I really like that General Ross, he cared about Bruce enough to give him another family, to give him one that to give him especially a mom that loved him, right? And that's where he ends up with Ms. Krensler at the beginning of the movie. And so I love this whole thing, right? And I love that this movie treats the Hulk. He's not a superhero, by the way. He's not a superhero in this movie. He's more akin to that of Frankenstein's monster. And I love that this movie characterizes him as that. Because yes, even though he's been an Avenger so many times in the comics, he's done so many like heroic feats here and there, but all in all, he's a creature of pure rage, right? And so you better make sure that you're not in the way of that, right? Like as he's going through this. And so yeah, no, I love that the Hulk is just a giant metaphor, right? It's a big giant metaphor, for bipolar disorder, for anger, for rage issues, right? And of course, who could forget about the amazing scene where the Hulk, he is in like a mirror, right? And Bruce sees him through a mirror, and it shows you the first time these two have physically interacted with each other. Which, by the way, this is like one of the very few times that we see it in the movies. Not even the MCU goes to like this much depth. And so, the Hulk bursts through the mirror. He grabs him and he's like, "Puny human," right? And it's like, it's so cool. It's like, and it tells you everything you need to know about their dynamic, about their relationship, right? And so, yeah, no, and also, by the way, this Hulk is the strongest one that there is in live action. I'm not even joking with you. The angrier he gets, the stronger he gets, and the taller he gets too. This is also like the tallest Hulk that we've ever seen in live action. Okay. This man fought 3 mutated dogs, right? And with the last one, this dog was like biting him on the shoulder, right? He was biting him on the shoulder. And guess what he did? He flexes his muscle. And when he flexes his muscle, the dog's jaw just breaks. Dude, I'm sorry? Like, no, let me tell you something. If this Hulk were to come up against Thanos, Thanos would back down real quick. Okay? Thanos would be scared of this man. Okay? Maybe Edward Norton's Hulk could put up a fighting chance with him, right? But like, the way that he knocks out Mark Ruffalo's Hulk is just, come on, man. Come on. But like, you pit Eric Bana's Hulk against this guy, oh, he's winning. Infinity War would have been over within like 5 minutes, maybe 3 minutes tops. Okay, so that's all I'm saying. That's why I think this is the best Hulk that we've seen on screen. Okay, now something else I want to talk about is I love the cinematography. I think this is shot very well. I think there's some amazing camera angles and photography. And I love the wide scopes that we get of several locations, such as the Banner household, and you get some close-up shots of like flowers and like nature and wildlife, right? And it's all beautiful. I'm telling you, like, Ang Lee has a really keen eye for good shots and very, very good cinematography. So I really got to give it to them. I really got to give him that, right? And of course, there's many shots where, one of my particular favorites is when Bruce's dad sees the Hulk for the first time. And there's a shot where it's from his kind of point of view, and he's looking and he's seeing the Hulk like drenched in shadows, right? Such a creepy shot. It's really cool. And I love the way that the Hulk is lit like a monster, okay? Like, this is like out of a horror movie. It's really, really cool. All right, like I'm gushing about this right now. Like, it's really nice. Another thing, I love the music. Danny Elfman his music is phenomenal in this movie. Absolutely wonderful. Okay, like, this is different from his previous superhero scores, right? Like, he did Batman, which is very heroic, dark, and triumphant, right? He did Spider-Man, which is light and hopeful, and so on and so forth, right? But his Hulk soundtrack is completely different, because this is not a superhero theme. This is a theme that you would see out of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, or Frankenstein, which, funny enough, were both inspirations for the creation of the Hulk by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. So I love the fact that Danny Elfman knew what kind of movie this was, that this was different from your traditional superhero movie. And so he created that of a theme worthy for a monster movie, right? And, and those 6 notes that he has, like, where it's like, na, 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 it lives in my head rent-free. It is simply phenomenal. It's, in my opinion, still the best theme we're ever going to get for the character. All right? Like, you can think of whatever Batman themes that you want, any Spider-Man themes that you want, but Hulk, to me, he has one theme, and that's this one. Okay? Besides maybe the Lonely Man theme from the 70s show. That was also very good, too. Something else I do want to mention is the visual effects. I think, for the most part, I think they hold up very, very well. Like I said, especially the Hulk, I think he looks great. I love that you can see every facial expression that he has. Whenever he's happy, he's angry, he's sad, he's confused. Like, I love all of that, right? And of course, to top it all off, Ang Lee does an incredible job of doing the motion capture, which you can even find in the behind-the-scenes footage, by the way. He really goes all out. This man holds no bars, okay? I think people over exaggerate when they say that this movie has like terrible things in it, right? When they say, "Oh, the visual effects are terrible," I'm like, really? You think so? I don't know. Like, I just feel like these visual effects hold up way more than, say, visual effects from like today's Marvel movies. Okay? I can at least say that they hold up more than Thor: Love and Thunder's special effects. I mean, come on. Come on, right? Like, you can't argue with that, right? Something else is that the comic book editing, right? A lot of people like to point this out. A lot of people like to say it contrasts with the tone. Like, why are there so many like weird angles and shots and like whatever? Why is it looking like a comic book? Maybe it's because Ang Lee is acknowledging the fact that it's a comic book adaptation and he wants to honor that. Have you ever thought about that? Now, what I will say this. I think his comic book editing is brilliant because it definitely symbolizes the movie being literally all over the place. No, I'm just kidding. Listen, I think it's a very ambitious filmmaking technique. I think it's very ambitious the way that Ang Lee wanted to tackle this. I, for one thing, see it as him as honoring the language of the comic book. I see it as him acknowledging that yes, this is from a comic book, right? And so he wanted to kind of honor the source material with that, right? And I especially think it's a lot of hard work to literally recreate the same angles and the same shots, right, with the same facial expressions and everything, with the same movements. And so I think that I have to commend Ang Lee for that, right? Now, yes, I do agree. There are some points where it definitely goes a little over the top, all right? Especially, like I mentioned, Talbot's death scene where he explodes and he turns into like a Microsoft PowerPoint and they just like zoom out and they go to a different scene. It looks like something out of PowerPoint, right? I will say that. It is a little distracting. But I think, for the most part, I think it works. And like I said, it's simply Ang Lee acknowledging and honoring the fact that this is a comic book, right? And so I feel like most Marvel movies these days, they forget that they're based on a comic book. And that's why they suck these days, right? Especially your Eternals and your Thor: Love and Thunder and your Ant-Man Quantumania. These movies forget that they're based on comic books. They think they can just change the source material and do whatever they want with it, right? You can't. You can't, because if you don't honor the roots of the source material, how are you going to make a good like adaptation, right? I will say this. I think the final battle is a little confusing, right? Because everything has been set up for the most part to be like a psychological thriller. It's all like a deep character study about Bruce Banner and his psyche. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, the climax turns into your typical superhero movie, where it's like you have your good guy versus your bad guy. The bad guy has special powers, and David's trying to like absorb the Hulk's power and everything. However, I think it has a really good payoff. I think it has a really good payoff, especially when David tells him, "Give me all of your power," right? And so Bruce, and keeping in mind, the Hulk is meant to be a representation of Bruce's trauma. He is meant to be a representation of all the rage that was bottled up in him ever since he was a child, right? So then we get to that amazing moment, all right, that awesome moment when Bruce is like, "You think you can live with it? Take it." And the Hulk's like, "Take it all!" Like it's, and he lets out all that rage. He lets out all that frustration. He lets out all that trauma. He literally trauma dumps on his dad. He trauma dumps on his father. It's so freaking awesome, right? And then Bruce's dad says, "Take it back," right? He says, "It's not stopping. Take it back," because it's so. He sees now all the pain that Bruce was feeling throughout his whole life, right? I think it's brilliant, right? However, I do think the little gamma cloud thing at the end was a little weird. Like like it's said, it's flashing with like different memories or whatever. It's weird. Okay, like there definitely are some weird things about this movie. And then of course he dies, and I like that at the end we see Bruce's last memory of his father was a happy one, right? Like how he chooses to remember his dad is when his dad, kisses him goodnight and he says sweet dreams. And that's it. And that's the last thing he remembers of his dad. He'd rather choose to remember a time where his dad was actually loving towards him. And I think it's beautiful and it's sad and it's tragic. And, and that's simply all there is to it, right? And I also think the ending is great, where you get to like a little time jump and you see Bruce in South America and he's helping these villagers, and he's a doctor and all these mercenaries come in, they're trying to take all the medicine. And then of course, Bruce says in Spanish, he's like, "You're making me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry." Right? And you see like his eyes turn green and everything. You hear the Hulk's roar, which by the way, that's why a lot of people say that the Incredible Hulk may be a sequel to this, because the Incredible Hulk does start off with Bruce in South America. But, that's neither here nor there. Like it's not canon, unfortunately. So what about all this to say? So I think I have to give credit to this movie for introducing me to the Hulk character and showing me that he's different from other superheroes. Spider-Man, he is a beacon of light, right? He is somebody that you can count on. He is your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. And then you have others like the X-Men, who are like a team of outcasts, trying to defend humanity. But the Hulk is different. The Hulk is somebody that, he's angry at the world. He's angry at himself, and he's angry at his other self, Bruce. But ultimately, he just wants peace. He just wants to be left alone, right? And so I feel like this character has so much potential. And it really is a shame for me to see that Marvel is squandering this character's potential, because we haven't gotten a solo movie since 2008. We also haven't gotten a good video game since 2005. Ultimate Destruction, and he also hasn't gotten a TV show since the crappy Hulk and the Agents of Smash show, which, by the way, I like to call it Hulk and the Agents of Trash. That show's not good. That show is really, really not good. And now I'm seeing Marvel Studios do all these sorts of like different things with the Hulk character, where it's like, oh, you have him in She-Hulk, where he's like embarrassed by like his less powerful cousin, right? And his cousin's treating him like crap. And you also have Red Hulk being the villain of a Captain America movie for some reason. What? And now you got Hulk coming in for Spider-Man Brand New Day. It's just like, dude, what are y'all doing? What are you doing? Give me the rights. Okay? Give me the rights to this character. Okay? Because I guarantee you, I could write up a whole script. That serves as a beautiful love letter and tribute to this character, far more than Marvel has ever done with this character since Mark Ruffalo took over the role. Okay, that's just me. Okay, that is just me, right? So I think ultimately all of this to say, I love the 2003 film. I love the 2003 film because it is so different compared to most superhero movies. And I also just love how even back then it was so different. It was so different from Blade, from X-Men, from Daredevil, from Spider-Man, all these other superhero movies, right? And I would even argue it's the same thing for superhero movies today. In fact, this is something more like what A24 would have done, right? This is kind of like an early attempt at like an A24 version of like how they would have done the Hulk movie, right? I actually think that would be pretty cool, right? Like have Marvel collab with A24 and do like a sort of like a psychological horror kind of thing with the Hulk. I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying. I'm spewing ideas out there. What do I know? I'm just a regular Joe from Florida, like who's just like thinking about these things constantly, right? What do I know? So really, all of this to say that I think it's nice to give this movie a little retrospective. And who knows, maybe throughout my video, maybe I've convinced you guys to maybe give the movie another shot. Who knows, right? But that's just me. That's how I Learn to Stop Worrying, Love Hulk 2003. Okay, so yeah, that's really it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I really hope that this video goes well, because I think it's just really it's a really cool way for me to pump out videos like this, and just kind of be more conversational with you guys, and that way you can and listen. If you guys get tired of my face, I mean, I'm happy to go back and and just use like movie clips, but regardless, I'm happy to be on here, and I'm happy to be talking about this with you guys. So yeah, I hope you guys have a very good rest of your evening, and see you next time here on Critical Lockdown.